Welcome students to this session on purchasing process pertaining to module 5 of operations management. We will be discussing about purchasing as a major link between an organization and the suppliers or vendors, and how purchasing is an essential function of operations management, especially dealing with materials. When we talk about materials management, purchasing becomes a very important function in the overall functioning of the organization. Let us start with the basic concepts of materials management. Now, materials can be raw materials, components, sub-assemblies, and supplies used to produce a good or a service. That is, materials can be raw materials can be components which are required for the final assembly, or they could be some materials which are an integral part of the final assembly, or they could be the work in process, that is materials in the pipeline. There could be sub-assemblies, or they could be supplies or stationery or some other items which are required for everyday service, some utilities, some supplies or some stationery or some other materials which are used for administrative work, which are not directly connected to production but yes, required for the running of the organizations. So materials could be raw materials, components, sub-assemblies, and supplies used to produce a good or a service. Most materials are transformed into finished products, whereas supplies are typically consumed in daily operations. So most of these materials go through the transformation process and get converted into finished products, whereas some supplies are consumed in daily operations, like your paper that you are using, office paper, or the other stationery that you are using, say they could even be some other items which are using for administrative purposes, files, etc., or furniture, etc. So they could also be supplies. Next, material management is a planning, organizing, and controlling of the flow of materials from the initial purchase through internal operations to the distribution of the finished goods. So materials management is the planning, organizing, and controlling of the flow of materials from their initial purchase, right from the vendor through internal operations within the organizations to the distribution of the finished goods. So you can see here this materials management is involved with the outside, that is the external, as well as the internal operations, that is flow of materials from outside inside the organization through internal operations, and also distribution of the finished goods. So it's a very, very vital function of operations management. Activities which are involved in materials management are purchasing, transportation, control through production and inventory management, warehousing, and distribution. So these are some of the essential activities involved in materials management: purchasing, transportation, control through production and inventory management, warehousing, and distribution. Importance of materials management. Globalization. Now, why do we require materials management or insights into material management? Because the sources of supply and distribution are increasingly getting more international. Your organizations or businesses are extending beyond borders. Borders here doesn't only refer to international borders. It could be, say, even between states, or between regions, or even sometimes foreign countries. So because of globalization, the sources of supply and distribution are increasingly getting more international. Hence, understanding of materials management is essential. Reduced time to market. The products must be delivered to customers in shorter time periods. Just because the boundaries are extending, there is no compromise on time. The products must be delivered to customers as fast as possible. You might lose out on a competition just because you might be slow, or you might be just behind him or her in supply. So it becomes, this supply time becomes very important. So reduce time to market. Products must be delivered to customers faster. Next, just-in-time inventories. Organizations must rely on supplier coordination rather than large inventories. So the concept of say storage is now slowly getting old-fashioned now. Now everything is just in time. So the supply coordination, through coordination, so the customer and the purchaser should have a cordial relationship. They should have an agreement based on which the material should be available whenever it is required, just in time. That's why it's called just in time inventories. Variety life cycle. The organization or the system must accommodate more product varieties with shorter life cycles, because you can see here, unlike say 10-20 years back or some 30 years back, now products are having shorter life cycles now because of innovation, new products coming up, new designs. All products are having, just like human beings now, the life of products are also getting shorter, correct? Because new products are coming up. So variety, there must be scope to accommodate more product varieties within shorter life cycles. This also is an important factor for us to look at materials management as a function, which is essential for effectiveness or effective running of the organization. Next, responsibility. The system must accept more product warranty and environmental liability. So material management, so organizations now have a liability with the customer, not only the product as well as some other aspects like product warranty or environmental liabilities are also important, correct? So they might not be present in every sales, so but the customer expects it. So there are certain factors which customers would like to have in a product, but the absence of that will not be a major concern to them. But if they are present in that particular product, then that becomes an added advantage to the customer. So often when there is a choice to be made, a customer might go for a particular product based on say product warranty or certain other initiatives which the organization has taken in terms of environmental liabilities. So that also becomes a very important consideration. What is purchasing? Purchasing is the process of acquiring goods or services in exchange for funds. So purchasing, the organization wants something, the vendor is supplying something which is required for the purchaser. So the purchaser acquires the goods from the vendor in exchange for money or funds. So that is purchasing. So purchasing is defined as the process of acquiring goods or services in exchange for funds. Next, in large organizations, negotiations are done by professional buyers who have specialized knowledge about selected product lines. So in large organizations, negotiations are done by professional buyers who have specialized knowledge about selected product lines. So the purchase department, the purchase people should have specialized knowledge about selected product lines. Next, familiarization with specifications, contract law, shipping regulations and other related factors is required. So the purchase people should always be on their toes, because the market is changing, new vendors may come up, new applications may come up, cost cutting strategies may be adopted by the vendors, and based on that new products at a lesser cost, much more competitive rates may be available in the market. So if the purchase people are not familiar with this, they will not know, they will not be able to give the best to the organization. It's a duty to look for such information regarding specifications, contract laws, for example, laws of purchasing, laws whenever you do you raise a tender, whenever go for a bid, there are some contractual laws that have to be followed. So specifications, contract law, shipping regulations and other related factors, new vendors, new applications, new innovations, all these things uh, should be known by the purchase people. So familiarization with this is essential. Coordination with the engineering or the design unit which prepares specifications, the operations department which will receive and use the materials, accounting which will process invoices or the documents, and other units of the organization is very essential for purchasing. So purchasing department is not isolated. It has to work with coordination with the design unit which will prepare the specifications, the production unit, the operations unit which will receive and use the material, the stores, the accounting section, finance and the accounting section, but they will give them information about invoices, the outstanding amount, whether the payment has come from, whether the payment has been given to the or been paid to the vendor or not, all other things regarding invoices, billing, etc. All the document related, finance related, accounting related matters will be discussed or will be shared by the accounts department with the purchase department. So purchase department should always be in coordination with the other functional units. So some of the major responsibilities of purchase department are delineating the company needs for goods and services, specifying quantities, quality, timing, etc. You need to specify the quantity based on the inputs received from the production department. The production department will tell you when the requirement is there for a specific component or a product. So when they intimate to you, the purchase department will then contact the vendors for any specific quantity, quality and timing of the supply. Next, identification of different sources of supply and to maintain the supply system database. So sources of supply, the different areas or regions, locations from where the suppliers can provide you, their transportation plans, the monetary considerations, how much they will charge, the reliability of the supplier, then the past records, whether they are how long they have been in the market, how reliable they are in terms of delivery, correct? All these things will be, proper homework will be done, proper analysis will be done by the purchase department. So different sources will be identified and they will be recorded and maintained in a database, because for future use also, for subsequent future use, you will require the details for some orders in the future, correct? So identifying sources as well as maintaining the database is another responsibility. Next, selecting the suppliers and negotiating contracts. Selecting the suppliers and negotiating contracts that will satisfy the price, delivery and other needs. So now you have to select. Selection will be based on certain measures, like certain methods like factor rating methods, or make or buy. Make or buy decisions can also be taken. The suppliers can be, you can choose a supplier or you can make it on your own depending upon whichever is more economical. So you can have a vendor analysis where you do an analysis of suppliers based on factors, do a factor rating exercise and then find out which supplier will be most economical for you, will satisfy majority of the parameters that you're looking for. So that will satisfy the price, delivery and other needs of the entire transaction. So this is another responsibility of purchase department. Also maintaining good relationships with suppliers and monitoring their performance. Good relations is very good, very important, because overall ultimately it is not a one day transaction that you're having with the supplier. It's maybe sometimes the relationship between suppliers and the purchasers go for years together, depending upon the progress that they make in their respective fields. So there should be good relationship with the supplier, and also monitoring their performance over a period of time. You have to make an assessment. Today the supplier may be good, or yesterday he might have been good, but tomorrow it is possible that he might change side sometimes. Similarly, that is applicable to you also, correct? So assessment of this is very important. So there should be a continuous evaluation of the suppliers and also the monitoring of the performances. So the parameters could be for parameters to base the performance will be delivery, price, their uh, the whether they are sticking to the promise that they have made, then the quality of the product, the quantity, and the documentation work that they do, reliability, etc. All these things will come into process when you monitor the performance. These are the parameters based on which you will usually judge a supplier. Next is to learn about new goods and services and route or channel appropriate information to others. So you should always be on the lookout for new goods and services, new suppliers, because ultimately uh, effectiveness, productivity of the organization is also important. That means if you can get a better choice, a better supplier who can give you at a more economical cost or much more competitive price, then it's always better to go to him. So also lean against the tide, go against low with the tide, rather low with the go with the tide, and try to look out for new things, new changes, new for the betterment of your organization. Correct. Initiate value analysis, make or buy, and other studies as appropriate. Value analysis, again, analyzing a product from the point of view of, say, reducing its cost. Is this product which I'm buying today, can I reduce the cost of this in terms of, say, it could be even in the form of expenditure. For example, you have a product that you're making in your premises. Can I make some cost decisions based on decreasing the cost of this particular product which I'm making? Cost analysis, value analysis, make or buy. Again, break even analysis can be used here for make and buy decisions, or some other studies as appropriate. So these are some of the major responsibilities of the purchase department. Next we'll see a flow chart here, a flow chart of purchase, the general purchase requisition. Just this is the general purchase requisition. Now the question is, should this item go out for a bid? Government organizations will go for a tender or a bid, correct? And the lowest tender, a person who will issue the lowest tender will be selected. But private organizations mostly don't go for tenders; they just go for an open call, correct? So generating a purchase requisition, should the item go out for a bid? If yes, you will request for a quotation. There will be a bid prepared, and that bid will be evaluated, and suppliers will be selected, and finally the purchase order will be released. A purchase order will be released, and this purchase order is sent to produce and ship the goods and services. So basically, if it doesn't go for a bid, like most private companies do, private companies will not take it out for a bid, so they will directly release the purchase order after doing some analysis. Government organizations might go for a quotation, public sectors, etc., preparation of the bid, evaluation. Just look at this particular flow chart and understand. So this entire process is the purchasing process, correct? I have to now tell you about this. So these parts, whatever is written here, this part, all this which is written here, these things are the functions of the purchase department. And whatever is written here, preparing bid and production, etc., is the seller's job, seller's activity. So these are all the purchase activities. These are the purchase activities, this is the purchase activity, and this is the seller's activity. This is the seller's activity. So you can see here, generating purchase requisition, of course the purchasing organization will do. This decision is taken again by the purchase department. Should the item go out for a bid? Yes, then request for quotation, and the seller will prepare a bid, and the seller will prepare the bid and send it. The evaluation will be done by the purchaser. Purchase order will be issued, and he will send it. So who will produce? The seller will produce it, and then this will go to the, what will happen now? This will again, this is, see, you can even add some more activities here. So after production and shipping of goods, what will happen? A purchase order will be generated. A purchase order will be generated here. It is purchase invoice will be generated here. Invoice will be generated here. We can have one more extension here. We can have an invoice which is generated by the, invoice will be generated by the invoice. Invoice will be generated by the seller, and that invoice will be sent with the material to the purchaser. Correct? Correct. And the purchaser will acknowledge the receipt on the invoice, and then the process of that the payment will happen. So there is a selling that the telling that a sales is not complete unless the transaction is complete. The transaction, sales transaction is not complete unless the money is paid. So the goods is received by the goods or service is received by the purchaser this way, and the money is transferred from the purchaser to the seller this way. Correct? So that will complete the process here. But we are now discussing not about seller, we are discussing about the purchaser. So let this particular flow chart. Look at this particular flow chart now. This flow chart will give you an idea about how the purchasing process happens. So bid is not always required. Private companies do not go for bids. Most of them don't go. So that will be a direct purchase order. Right? Just this entire scheme or this entire flow chart will give you an idea about how the purchasing process happens.